States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome our visitors tonight, members of the staff and the public. Is there any public comment tonight? Marguerite, if you'd identify yourself, please.
I'm Marguerite Wooden, former English teacher at Waterford. I have a letter that is from Kathy Ladd, and she can't be here tonight because she asked me to read it. Dear Board of Education members, Waterford community members, and friends of Harold Goldberg. I am currently teaching adult education at East Hartford and have a class tonight. And as much as I wanted to be here previously, I reflected on what the boss would say if I attended this meeting instead of being a student. Needless to say, that is the dedication that our boss, Harold Goldberg, instilled in every one of us, and why I'm sending this message in place of me. What started out as what we thought would be a fairly easy process seems to have encountered some hurdles. The whys or the whos are not important. Harold certainly would not have wanted any issues dealing with him. This man was the most humble, gracious, and caring administrator most of us ever encountered. His total focus was his students and making sure that we all did what was in the best interest of each and every one of those students. I was able to bear witness to this man as he went up against staff, central administration, and state organizations to fight for what his staff needed to accomplish. His ultimate goal was always to provide the best for each student that went through his house, the Clark Lane Junior High School, and then the Clark Lane Middle School. He was the consummate professional, always fighting for the best for his staff and students. I have already submitted a lengthy testament to the Board of Education explaining why I feel Harold should be honored with a permanently naming a portion of the school after him. I will not go into that detail again. I only wanted to submit this because I feel torn that I could not make my presence here tonight. Yes, I'm still following Harold's guidelines of students first, even after 40-plus years in education. That's the impact this man has created. Waterford should be thankful that they have such a man leading staff and their children, and should be honored to commemorate such a deserving man. He is a role model for all to aspire to, and in this day and age, we need that aspiration to be in the forefront of what and how we teach and live. Kathy Ladd, former science teacher at Clark Lane Junior High School.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Pat?
Thank you. I'm Pat Jordan. I taught for 38.5 years in Waterford Public Schools. I began my career at Clark Lane. Well, I began at Clark Lane much earlier. I did go to kindergarten there, but Harold wasn't there then. But I went back in 7th grade, and this happened to be the year that Harold began being the principal at Clark Lane. And he kind of took me under his wing. I expressed an interest in the special ed program, and he made it a point to help me to get down to the special ed classroom and work twice a week during our homeroom period, learning to how to be with those very wonderful people. And he would check on me all the time. He would talk to me about where I might want to go to college and what I might want to major in. And anytime he saw me after I left Waterford High School, the same thing. Are you still interested in special ed? Well, I don't know anymore. I ended up in math. But for a beginning teacher to begin working under Harold Goldberg was the best training that anyone could ever ask for. He was by far the best mentor I ever had. I go in, his door was always open, I go in and say, I'm having a little trouble, Mr. G. What do you think? And he said, well, let's sit down and talk about it. And then he'd say at the end, go home and think about it, come in tomorrow morning and let me know what you think. So I'd go in the next morning and he'd say, what'd you come up with? I'd tell him, he'd say, okay, try it. And I'd try it and then he'd check with me. Now, that's what a principal's supposed to do. Make you think, make you try it harder, and believing you. And he did that throughout my career. He would check on me all the years I was at the high school, and afterwards, I found myself at one point, after having very seriously broken my leg, in a nursing home in London. And I ran across this little old man, Barry Schwartzman, 104 years old, oldest living engineer in the state of Connecticut. And no one ever came to see him. He was very lonely. And so, of course, I made friends. And I called Harold. And I said, I know what I do in my religion, but do you have a group that goes around? He said, I'll be there. That's the kind of man he was. He was compassionate, caring. He cared about what I thought and what I did. But he cared about Gary, too. Having never met him. Because that's the kind of man he was. We were blessed in Waterford to have him, and I hope that we remember him well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. You identify yourself, please?
I didn't come here to plan on speaking tonight, but
And you are?
my name is Carol Batch. I am a parent. I had 3 children go through the Waterford school system. I believe my daughter, she graduated high school in 89, so she went to Clark Lane in 85, maybe. She was my oldest. She came off the school bus one day, came home, scratches all down her face. She wore glasses. They were frozen. I'm like, what happened to you? She got beat up coming off the school bus in our neighborhood. So I said, get in the car. So I took her right up to Clark Lane. And I don't remember Mr. Goldberg's admin, but I believe it was a relative of his. And I said, I need to speak to Mr. Goldberg. And she said, well, he's leaving, or he's already gone even, for the Jewish holiday. And I said, well, I need to speak with somebody now. She goes, well, there's nobody here. And all of a sudden the door opened to the office, and Mr. Goldberg. And he said, Mrs. Batch, I will see you right now. Come in the office. And I apologize for keeping him from his appointment. We told him the whole story, and he said, I will take care of it. The next morning, school may have started at 8 o'clock, and by 8:30, I received a telephone call from Mr. Goldberg telling me that the situation was handled. He told the girl that she was lucky that I wasn't her parent, because, I'm getting confused, that she was lucky that I wasn't her parent, or he wasn't Kathleen's parent, that's what it was, because he would have taken Kathleen right to the police station and would have avoided the school. And that was the kind of person this Goldberg was. He cared about the kids. He didn't care about the parents. Or he cared about the parents, but not giving it that, he's going to discipline. He did what he felt was necessary. Both my parents have passed away. Mr. Goldberg was there. He came to the wake. He came to the funeral. And then my dad passed away. He was out of town. He came over with a fruit basket in the afternoon. He knew all of these kids by name. He knew their families. He read about them in the newspaper and was the first one to either send his condolences or congratulate them. And to give you another example, I was at Eileen's one night looking at jewelry, and he was there looking at jewelry. And he said, what are you going to buy? And I said, nothing. I'm just looking. He said, well, here's my credit card. Whatever you want. You don't find many principals or superintendents or anybody that is going to give you his credit card was to buy yourself a piece of jewelry. So I hope you consider doing something in Mr. Goldberg's name, because I, for one, adore him. And every time I'll talk to a parent, I always reference Mr. Goldberg.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Good evening, my name is Sandy Cohen. I'm going to read this because it's a very emotional text. I have the luck, privilege, and joy of being a member of the Harold Goldberg faculty, and I was one for 19 years. In every career, be it medicine, the law, teaching, cuisine, performing, whatever, there are those who are weak and those who are strong, and there are the select few who are outstanding, talented, of star quality. Harold was such a star, a unique individual. He spoke softly and was a tower of strength. His morality, code of honor, sense of decency, integrity was second to none. He valued, appreciated, and advocated for all. He was the epitome of good. He not only was our administrator, he was the friend to every student and to his entire faculty. I'm going to give you one little personal aside. My husband had had a second heart attack, and we had tickets to go see a Broadway show for our anniversary. They missed, the whole family. So Harold said, you have to go, and Harold stayed all night with my husband. So that's a little, he was the epitome of good. Doesn't get any better. So here is a man who could be judged in Martin Luther King Jr.'s words by the content of his character. Reggie Eccleston and Harold Goldberg were a dynamic duo who did wondrous things for the Waterford students. We have dedicated a memorial to Reggie, rightfully so, deservedly so. So we must not forget the other half of this dynamic duo. Today in our world, in our country, there are very few heroes. In fact, the only heroes our students know are probably in Marvel comics. So let's give them someone real to look up to emulate, to aspire to be. Let's give them an actual, real-life hero by commemorating Harold Goldberg. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. There are no additions or corrections. Motion to approve the consent agenda has been ordered.
So moved.
Your second.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, motion is passed unanimously. I understand there is no correspondence to review. If none, we're on to your report.
Sure. Appreciate everybody's flexibility in making tonight's special meeting happen. Special thanks to Mr. Adler for being here to present the Class of 2018 report. This is an annual report given to the board by the High School Counseling Department. It will really cover, as you see from your packet materials, college and career avenues, achievement data, life after high school data. This is the first year we've included PSAT to SAT cohort data, which I was pleased to see, and I know Jason's going to go into more depth. Thank you.
Thanks for your time. I had to run home very quickly to make coffee, so if I have flour or oil on me, I apologize. I love you guys. So this is the 17-18 school year report. It isn't just about the seniors, because of course there's a lot of high school students who do a lot of college town stuff. So this is a 5-year post-secondary plan item. I just want to note it's been very stable. I'm going to have to look back and see what happened in 2015 because it really like this all around for the post-secondary education route. 21% of the senior class plan to enroll at Three Rivers or Avery campuses of the class of 2018. I worked with Three Rivers 2 years ago, and this year got lost in the shuffle, but they were able to show how many students need remedial classes. Thankfully, it wasn't a lot. But considering 21% of the schools that really a stone throw away, I really do feel like getting time to work with those two schools to see how well prepared our students are would be a really useful data set for us. I'm not sure about Privacy Act. They never got the name, but that's what Bureau has done, and so hopefully we'll expand that in the future. To expand that further, just look at police remediation, work that's needed to correlate with their curriculum, but also retention, which I do have a slide on later on, which is extremely important. You can see we have a lot of kids going on post-secondary school, clearly a college prep as it were institution. And we did, I believe the chairman wanted to draw out military from the employment internship on the side. And we look at that and there are people planning on working. All right. So we started using the PSAT 10 last year. So there isn't literally just 1 year of data that's important for you to have. All of the College Board tests are now on the same scale. So if a student scored a 506 as we did on the evidence-based reading, writing, or English, or shorthanded, that's what they would have scored on the SAT on that day. We do really, really well in the reading section. And the math section, for a sophomore, I still think that's a really good score. You can see our average mean is 992, which does the college career benchmark, which is suspect, and I'll get into it a little bit, but that's what the College Board said at that age they should get. We well exceed that. PSAT 10, we're going to look at the PSAT's regular students. The SAT school day results, which are the ones that we measured against both the state as well as nearby towns if we wish. We can see that we are above the benchmarks in English yet again. And you can see that the 480 was the number that was set for English, and then we're a little bit below in the mathematics, but I do believe you can see that we are increasing every year, and again, those years are on the same scale, so they're apples to apples, and you can see that there's improvement, even a little bit.
Jason, could you just touch on the fact that when kids take SATs on their own, that is different than this data? I know you covered that last year, but it's relevant.
So we used to include DERG data, and the reason I don't anymore is I realized 20 years out of date, and I don't actually know who's in our DERG anymore, so I didn't want to give you information that wasn't really important. So when I did that, I included all of the SAT scores. On average, most of our college-bound students, which is the majority of our class, take the SAT twice. Once now is on the SAT day, and then normally the conference is encouraging them either in right beforehand in March, or afterwards in May or June to take a follow-up one so they can best match their best English and their best math scores. So, in fact, our average scores of the kids graduating are higher than this, but I am showing you just what we can measure ourselves against other schools with because it's 100% or very close to it of our students who take them. Yes?
So when I was reading your report, you talked that the school system pays for the SAT school day.
The state pays for the SAT.
Okay, so then we pay for the PSAT school. Okay.
That's correct.
And then you also referred to a SAT junior. So there were a couple different references there.
Yes.
So that's what you were talking about. The school day is the junior one.
It's the junior test.
And then, so some of our students actually outperform the junior, you're saying?
That's right.
Okay.
So more often than not, though I won't say it's exclusive, it's only juniors and seniors who take the SAT. We do have a few high-achieving students. I was pointed this woman who makes them take it like every year. But that's good. It's practice. I wouldn't do it, but it's awesome. So the junior SAT is the SAT of state measurement.
Okay.
Our report card.
And the state pays for that now?
Well, we pay for it, but yeah. And when I say we, I'm talking about the tax there. So, yeah.
Somebody pays for it.
Somebody pays for it, and it's all of us in this room. Hopefully. All right, so this is the beginning of what you were asking for, Mark, beforehand, which is the growth set. We just don't have a lot of data yet. So for 2018-19, we did make our kids take the PSAT regular, the PSAT and the National Merit Scholarship test. That is an 11th grade exam that we now give on a voluntary basis the second Saturday of October. So this is the measurement we use. Again, it's on the same scale. So you can see that for the class of 2018, their PSAT English was 521, and there's a significant improvement to the next SAT. and then 2019, you can see there's, again, about 20 points down. SAT math, SAT math in 2018 and 2019. Again, there's growth every single year. What does that mean? I do think there's a lot of conversations to get into there. We're not going to have those PSAT results for your next PSAT 10 results until the following year, because we started just last year with the PSAT 10. I also want to point out that the PSAT SAT growth is simply from October of the year before their graduation, maybe 2 years before their graduation, to the SAT, which was they're both in their junior year. There was no sophomores taking these exams.
Okay.
So PSAT English, class of 18, was their fall of their junior year, and then the SAT was the spring of their junior year. Mr. Hauser and I talked about it, and we thought a year's growth was a better judge both for teachers as well as students to show that growth rather than just a few months. Yes.
Just to clarify, so the SAT is the school day.
Correct, I
The
apologize.
PSAT is whoever chose to take it on a Saturday.
That we did pay for the PSAT
Yes.
in October.
So that's all students.
That's all the juniors. Yep.
So to clarify, right now on this slide,
Yes.
those are not the same kids.
All
They're
2018
okay.
straight across the same kids, 2019 is the same kids. Yeah.
Okay.
And so next year we'll have 220, but again, it will be PSAT 10 will start coming in. But again, they're on the same scale, so it shouldn't matter. My guess is the PSAT 10 will show lower scores. Questions from the audience?
I have a question.
Yes.
I might have missed it, so forgive me. For 18 and 19, what's the total number in each class?
That is not there. I can get that for you, but I don't know offhand.
Like how many kids didn't?
They had to take in those 2 years. They were like in the 180, 190 range, I assume.
No. How many kids are in the class for juniors?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, about 190. Okay. I didn't hear you. Thank you.
And I literally haven't mentioned it before. So,
all right.
So that it's about that. And in these 2 years, these are the first years we made everyone do both tests. The state made them do one of them. We made them do the PSAT. And now we changed it to PSAT 10 in future years. The scores will drop on the PSAT portion because they're taking.
Right, it'll be earlier.
Yeah.
So you're saying you have probably over 90% of the students taking.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
All right. The cost of college. This is something I added a couple of years ago. I continue to think it's incredibly important.
Oh my God.
I just want to mention that it's not on the slide here. Nationally, about 2 in 3, about 65% of college seniors who graduate from public and private nonprofit colleges have student loan debt, an average of $28,000. So this is not to scare people with young children in the audience, and people who are older with children already know this. There is a reason why 21% of our students are applying to our career degree point, and then if you combine them with obviously the other state schools, it's the preponderance of the students who are looking at state education and specifically the state of Connecticut. We have great colleges here, and I know there's been conversations before about why there are not more students who are applying to IBs or the most competitive. There was some data in the report about the fact that we do have a lot of kids applying for them. But that's not the preponderance, and a lot of it has to do with the ability to get into those schools, but also the cost and benefit analysis, which is really difficult to make your junior and senior year of high school, especially for first college students who find out quite a bit. So there's not much you can do with the numbers here. I just want to indicate that the numbers of the AP takers, so the advanced placement testing, for those of you in the audience who might not know, is going down in years, and that's primarily because of the school's new emphasis on the early college experience program at UConn, as well as the high school partnership of Three Rivers and a couple other programs as well, College for Pathways, as mentioned, is one big one. We're getting college credits as part of a class rather than taking a test. And personally, when I talk to my students, my emphasis is always, where are you more likely to go to school? And I just said that the preponderance of students go to school in Connecticut. UConn almost automatically accepted credit, automatically accepted. You have to score a certain amount on the AP test, and even then, I know we can talk to some people on the board themselves, that it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's just using placement purposes. It doesn't even count for credit. So both in terms of showing their competitiveness, but also as a means of saving money or taking more advanced classes, if they're in the state of Connecticut, EC is always my personal preference with students. As long as they get a certain grade in class after a full year of working, they get a transfer from UConn that shows them taking those classes.
Jason?
Yeah.
On the UConn versus the AP, are they sometimes the same course, and at the end of the year the student just has to opt?
They are the same course.
All of them are?
Not all
of them. But,
anyone that has both in the title is the same.
Okay, so like your Spanish is both AP or UConn.
It prepares them both for an English test as well as UConn. Now, they need to decide at the beginning of the year.
Oh, at the beginning.
UConn credit, so it's a few $100 to do that, and then they determine the board no longer pays them. They used to pay for the test, but now it is their choice, and they do that in March.
Okay.
And honestly, if they know that they credit from UConn, especially if they're seniors, there's questions as to why you want to take a 3-hour exam.
Mm-hmm.
These are the dual enrollment highlights. I just want to point out that we are using it primarily as a way of preparing our students for college. The more they take college-like classes, or in fact college freshman classes, the more likely they are to succeed. They are also looking more impressive for colleges, and they can get credit towards college and actually end up being perhaps second semester freshman or even a sophomore, which can save tens of thousands of dollars, and it shows on the top of the college page. There's a huge jump in the CCP, which is the College Career Pathways enrollment. Up until 2015-16, you had to do a whole pathway, as we've talked about pathways here before, in order to get all the credits. In 16-17, they began allowing you to take individual classes. So that's the huge spike, and that's what we'll be measuring ourselves against henceforth. The enrollment is really college experience. The AP test, I only count the ones that were at 3 or above, because that's pretty much the Mason-Dixon line for most schools. So some won't even get 5, because I think they're all that. But you can see how many kids of ours are getting college credit. Somewhere. Not everyone's going to go somewhere. And that's not the students. Like, there are individual students who have 20 credits over the way. So, a focus on college and career readiness. This is something we show every year just to show how we judge students, how we prepare. Mr. Hauser had this look and say, are we preparing kids for college and career readiness? I just would like to point out again, this is a really amorphous comment, the title, a focus on college and career readiness. It is a talking point of the state, but how do we really know that a student is college and career ready once they are there? So the ongoing questions I put at the end is most important to me. How do we measure the correlation between readiness and post-secondary success? And how can we better develop student soft skills and resiliency? Clearly I'm biased. I am a school counselor. I think that quote-unquote soft skills is I hate the name of. As far as being able to interview, being able to work in a team, being able to pick yourself back up, resiliency after you're falling down. Those are the things that employers tell us they want. They don't tell us they want free calculus. They want to say someone who can, in fact, you want free calculus. But that's not something they emphasize to us. They're very hard to measure. So we're really trying to find a way both to see how can we judge whether our kids are successful, because the privacy is very hard to tell. But also how can we better develop those soft skills, because we're doing well on the academic front. More issues regarding what we do at school in terms of catching kids before they fall, or after they do, building them up using the new academy program at the high school for freshmen and sophomores, using Edgenuity to both allow students to explore new horizons, but also to help with remediation, and the college credits, the college pathways, AP, ECE, college experience, and we learn scholars in Connecticut College program. And by the way, I don't think I mentioned this before, we worked with them, and now they're allowing a couple of teachers here to take classes for free in addition to. So it's a nice, good neighbor to have. How are we being proactive? So a couple of years ago, as you know, we started the Algebra 1 double link class. That's now being offered to all students. There's no advanced or standard level class. Some will need more remediation or more work to be there for 2 days in a row, and we can flex that depending on their needs in different areas of algebra. So that's been incredibly successful, and my guess is that's going to show on the new tests as we hit them in future years. All right, so how being proactive, we have such stuff here. I do simply also want to say that we are developing our three-year relationship. Last year we had our first automatic acceptance day. As many of you know, our community colleges automatically accept students. But the earlier we get the process rolling, the better the chance we have of enrolling in the classes they want. So this December, as we did last December, we have a bunch of students, last year, we had 25 students. We're expecting that same amount again. It's when most of our students go, so we can get them going hopefully we'll continue to emphasize the importance of their senior year, get them into college, get them to stay, be successful. So we gather all the forms necessary for each student, and they get an admission letter the day after. So that's a good thing to do. We are also looking continuously for good alumni surveys, and they just aren't out there. It is really hard to get alumni data, and that is something we are in desperate need of. All right, and I apologize to be in the weeds, but this is something personally that I'm getting more interested in. So P20 WIN is higher education and the Department of Labor working together to determine what are the outcomes of students. They are years in the making, and thus the data in front of you is from the class of 2010 from Waterford. And you can see that after 6 years after they graduated, which was a couple of years ago, 130 kids of the students, 173 who went to post-secondary education, that is how many are earning a living wage, which is, I believe in our state, is a little bit above the 26,000 mark. It doesn't tell us much without context, but this is the kind of data we need to find, because we can talk all day about what curriculum choice we offer, but if we don't know what the outcome is, are they employed? Are they gainfully employed? Do they flee the state? Are they staying in state? Who is hiring? And are the average jobs paying $26,000? I believe that's obviously average. That's not enough to live in the state. We need to be sure we're doing the right things to prepare them and not being guided by what some politician or hope politician said. So I just want you to have that to begin exploring. P20 WIN is just, again, 6 years behind. So it's really difficult, or 8 years behind. So it's very difficult. That's the most recent class I was able to point that on. Showing you again a little bit of data, self-reported. Everything we have on Naviance, most of the data I give you is self-reported. We know when kids get into school because they tout. The school doesn't give us a list of kids who admit. They maybe a half dozen or maybe a dozen do. So they reported there were 165 that enrolled in school, and this from my dad at the beginning of the report. 129 went 4-year and 36 went 2-year. And then the actual data from the Clearinghouse, which covers about 98% of kids who leave our schools and go into college. 148 actually enrolled, 122 4-year and 126 to 2-year. So why is this drop? Some are nuts. That's a phrase you say, like, once they don't have the guiding hand of a counselor or their teachers or their principal to support them, they sort of lose their focus and don't want to go on. Resilience, because they have a setback in their lives. Is the money issue really big when they suddenly actually get that first bill and they just get scared out of doing it? Was there a change in the circumstances? Was there a pregnancy? Was the family move? These aren't huge percentages, so if you just look at the percentages, total enrollment in terms of how many kids of ours that went to college was 87% of that class, and then 148, this is the class 2018, 78% went on. So it's not a huge number difference, but it's enough. I mean, these are all kids. So what happens to those students? Retention resiliency, and I'm sorry that that's what's gone on so long, but it's really important for me to show this. This is also coming from the National Clearinghouse. What this shows is there's a higher retention rate in private schools. My guess is because there's white blood treatment there. They have a great incentive because they get a lot of money from our students to keep them there and for kids to stay enrolled because they've invested so much. And they have greater resources than state schools. But of 113 people who went to public schools, 93% were in-state. So again, where are kids going? How can we make them successful in what they're actually going, rather than preparing them for an eventuality that they're not going out of state, they're not doing X, Y, or Z. So this is pretty critical information. It is the class of 2015, so though we did get the most recent update, this is the most recent retention resiliency report that I was able to get from Clearinghouse. So it's a lot of data. You can see my emphasis at the end is really about what comes after high school, which there is just a dearth of knowledge about. You've given us the tools of using Naviance and the Clearinghouse. That's awesome. We have gotten grants, and you've given us permission to pay for some surveys that go on to alumni, but there's simply nothing out there right now that really can give us the data necessary to tell you what we can do better as a school system to better prepare our students for the real world. So that's the report for this year. Not a big number, but certainly a real life. So are there other questions or comments that I can address?
So The Clearinghouse data is the actual data reported from the colleges themselves. So the difference is 165 of our kids, or 129, let's use the 4-year, so they were going to college in September versus they actually showed up in college this September.
So the 129 reported when we did surveys of the counselors in May.
Right.
That's when they usually declare where they're going. And then
122.
When I report, I send the data of the students and then they send it back to me. This is as November.
Oh, November, okay.
Actually were enrolled in those schools. So potential some drop out in that 1 month of school, but is it a huge difference? 7 kids in the 4 year?
Yeah, it's not that big.
13, but it is that I think.
Yeah, it's very important.
So, doesn't get at some point.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Very welcome, thank you.
Next item, notification of donation.
Sure, we have a policy that says if the district receives donations over $500, I'm obligated to notify the board. Clark Lane is in receipt of 2 such donations. They had an anonymous donor donate $2,500 for Unified Sports, which is obviously a key program in that school. And the Clark Lane PTO donated $3,500 to be primarily used to offset the cost of field trips and some enrichment and instructional materials. So, good news for Clark Lane. Just a couple other items. Some of these were more timely 2 weeks ago. Parent-teacher conferences went well. Those were held on Election Day. Actually, Veterans Day, pardon that. And very successful turnout, very high percentage at elementary, and still remains a challenge at secondary, but doesn't mean we don't stop trying. We had a successful PD Day on Election Day, which went very well across the district. A couple other announcements. The artwork here in the room and in the hall is courtesy of Great Neck Elementary, so we appreciate our students' great artwork. Waterford High School will host the 2nd annual ski night on December 4th. We're expecting a great turnout like last year. Last year was the first year that we did that, and we went so well that we're doing it a second year. And the plan will be to kind of alternate ski night and Parent Academy night, so neither one loses steam. No pun intended. But we're just really looking forward to that. We really outreach pre-K to 12 parents for that, and it's really an opportunity for our high school students to showcase their knowledge and skills. And I'd be remiss, as my last remark before we move on, to not mention that Joey Lazarchuk was inducted Friday night into the Waterford Athletic Hall of Fame. Well, her work through
I'm not talking to you now, too.
Congratulations. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thanks, Tom. Moving on, committee and other reports. The Clark Lane Naming Committee and the Softball Feasibility Committee, both those committees will be reporting on the action items. Finance Committee, let's report on that.
Sure. And Michigan as well. Administration reviewed with the finance subcommittee of the board our budget assumptions as we head into budget planning season. Really, what are those assumptions we're going to make as we build the budget, whether that be the projected increase on cost of goods, desirable class sizes, what other state funding should we count on, those sorts of discussions. And then the other topic that we spent some time discussing was the increased cost around busing students to magnet schools, which is certainly something that I would recommend the board take a look at. Traditionally, we've had enough students going to magnet schools where it would offset reimbursement from the state, would help offset a very, very large percentage of the cost of transport. The current reimbursement rate is about $1,300 a student. Because we have less kids going to magnet schools, which has been a priority for the board and certainly in turn a priority for administration, we're still running those same buses, but we have 30 or 40 less students taking those magnet buses, so 40 times 1,300 is X, and that now is being picked up by the school district. So we had a discussion with the finance subcommittee that this year the district will take a loss of about $60,000, Mr. Mancini.
Sounds good.
Because we have far fewer students. So we look at a hub pickup model for those magnet schools. We eliminated entirely those sorts of discussions. No decisions were made, but some things to look into. So I think those were the major thrusts of that video.
I think we also looked at the capital improvement plan too, didn't we?
We did. Thank you.
Which we'll be looking at tonight, right?
Correct. We also looked at the capital improvement.
Any questions or comments from the board? Craig, would you handle the policy committee report?
Sure. We really tackled the policy around or the regulation around intramurals and interscholastic athletes, and bringing forward tonight that, and then we also looked at several policies which were really of statutory nature.
Any questions or comments? Other committees? Great.
We had an Atlantic Broadband Advisory Council meeting. Not too much to report there. There's a push to reinstate what's called the Technician grant. It's used by towns to help fund some of their capital improvements for public access. Basically, I think that they're trying to reestablish it, so we agreed to join in with some of the other advisory councils to donate some money, $1,000, towards a lobbyist, and talk to legislators to try to get that reestablished. And with the thinking there is also, what happened in the past is this grant would get raided by the politicians. They take money out of it and put it somewhere else, and the grant will go away. So we're trying to get it so they can't touch it. It goes to where it should go instead of elsewhere.
No. Went to the meeting last month, nothing exciting. Business as usual.
Jody, youth services?
Youth services, they already have a 20% increase on families that need help at Christmas time. So if anybody would like to call youth services and see how we can help. You don't have to adopt the whole family. I mean, maybe there's just some, one or two items that you may want to, donate. But, please call them if you'd like to. We also help senior citizens, too, not just children and families. So we have quite a few senior citizens in town that really need help in that, too. We're still in the process of choosing a new assistant for Danny. That's ongoing, so hopefully we'll find someone soon. Youth Service Bureau is also going to have a float in the light parade this Saturday, so if you can go and support them, that'll be great. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Any other committee reports? Okay, on to new business. The first item is possible action on naming the school facilities for a community event. Liz, would you like to answer
Sure.
the presentation?
Thank you to the folks who spoke this evening and to the board members. Greg, Chris, and I were your representatives on the ad hoc group. We had community members, we had administrators, we had teachers throughout the district, and we had 2 meetings of which you've read the minutes, and you've gotten the packet of information that Carolyn keeps giving us more and more information. You see a couple of more documents at your seats tonight. The first step was us to review the documentation we had to make sure that Mr. Goldberg met all the qualifications that are listed in the policy. And I'm just going to summarize. He was a World War II veteran, and he was a teacher for 39 years. 1 year of that was overseas, 34 years here in Waterford as a guidance counselor, assistant principal, and he finished his career as a principal at Clark Lane Middle School for a total of 38 years in the state of Connecticut. And we've heard very eloquent recommendations as for his role here as a principal. But the policy also talks about impact outside of the actual district. And so we've gotten documentation and some presentations at our second meeting that talked about Harold continued to work after he retired. And many of those positions were interim or mentoring positions at many local schools, including Lyme and Preston, where he not only filled the interim position well into his 80s, but served to mentor young principals and administrators as they started. He was also Principal of the Year in 1988. He was a CAS president. And when I called up CAS and CIAC and talked to the director of Unified Sports, he indicated that Harold was really responsible with a small group, a small cadre of getting Unified Sports off the ground, which we know just from tonight how successful that is within our own district. But he started with Special Olympics, and it over time morphed into a school-based program where we have mentor athletes working with our special ed athletes on courts and athletic fields. He also was active in his church. He was a board member of the Solomon Schechter Academy as well as his synagogue, Bethel. And he was, many people might remember him for his many years of officiating as basketball and also sometimes baseball. But I think even Tom mentioned that in his first couple of years as a teacher, he saw Mr. Goldberg on the court. So he certainly has met all of those qualifications. So, Chris, I know you were going to do a presentation in case I wasn't at this board meeting. Is there anything else as one of those committee members that you can add to that?
I think that there might have been confusion or conversation that Mr. Goldberg met the qualifications, but I think after we took a deeper look, I think the committee felt that he does or did meet the qualifications. I think that we talked about what we would name and what it would be. Would it be the office or would it be the atrium? And I think, in my opinion, the consensus was the atrium as opposed to the office. And I said, and I feel, that it should be the atrium, not the office, because I feel like kids get in trouble and go to the office. Kids don't win prizes to go to the office. So on their way down, I think the mentality or the mindset is you don't want the office area to be named as opposed to the atrium where there are more fun things to do, where there's meetings and gatherings. So I think the atrium would be a better fit. I looked at the atrium, I looked at the office with Mr. Powers, and I think the atrium is a better fit. Everyone who I talked to, because I'm not a product of the Waterford school system, has had nothing but good things to say about him. And even my friends, what I've heard from people at this meeting, the last meeting, and the meeting before, it has stayed consistent and stayed true about here is a guy that's going to people's funerals and wakes and what have you, and who truly cares, and everyone I've spoken to has said that. So I think it should go through. I think it's a good thing. I think there's no one more fitting, and I think it's a great thing.
Thank you, Chris.
So I will make the motion. The committee voted to move it to the board. By policy, we need, I believe, a two-thirds, right? We don't. Oh, I misread that. Oh, thank you. So, we don't even need to, we just need a majority then, right, Mr. Chair? So, my motion is to name the atrium, the entryway at Clark Lane Middle School, after David Harold Goldberg in his honor.
Second.
Any discussion by the board?
In the words of Mike Tomorrow, slam dunk. I really think Harold is so deserving of this. Plus, I think it's wonderful for our students and parents, when you walk right into the back of Clark Lane, you'll see a picture, hopefully, of Harold, and we'll think of him, and he is a true hero. He was a wonderful man.
Thank you, Joe. Great.
Yeah, he was my principal when I went to Clark Lane. I spent time in the office. But I mean, he listened to you. You know, he treated you, he respected you as a kid, and he listened to you.
Wow.
So that actually left.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, the next item up is a recommendation from the softball field feasibility committee, possible action on that recommendation. Craig or Jamie, which one of you would like to present?
So we've had three meetings regarding the looking into the possibilities of a girls' softball field if they don't have one. Veterans Field has always been the place where they play, the golf campus, and so forth. So we had a few board members, Jody and myself, chaired the committee. Mr. Morelli, the parent, did a lot of work with looking in the Veterans Field, and it's actually a beautiful idea that I hope someday would come through. But ultimately, we came to the conclusion, as in a meeting tonight, to bring forward a recommendation to build a softball field, girls softball field, on the Waterford High School property down into the Minor Lane area. We have some ideas where the field would be, but we still need to do a little more research and make sure that's exactly it. And with this, we would also come up with basically 3 practice fields. There's an old nursery in the back behind where the boys' baseball field is, so we would gain a lot there. We wouldn't lose any practice field. We would actually gain quite a bit of real estate there. So that's the location, and as the funding, we're going to initially ask for $1.25 million. I think we'd be under that. It's rough numbers at this point. But all in all, I think the meetings were good. I think it's something we do need to do. The girls definitely deserve a field, and then a nice place to play that they can call their own.
Comments or questions?
Well, just to add to that, the intent is to offer something outside of the softball. So the softball field is the focus, but it will be a multi-purpose field. So there will be additional opportunities for field hockey, soccer, to perhaps be able to utilize that area. So even though we're taking, it may take up current practice fields, we will add more practice fields, plus the field that goes in will be multi-purpose. So we feel that gets the best bang for the buck.
And we also have the opportunity to look further to put in other recreational sort of activities and make it a little more usable to everyone.
So, with respect to this recommended action, we want the motion to be that the Board of Education approves the building of a softball field on the high school grounds, and received a $1.25 million capital budget appropriation, and we want the appropriations part just made part of the capital plan.
We typically embedded it in the capital plan. After discussions with the first selectman, he is comfortable with if the board approves a placeholder amount tonight, and then we'll pursue more detailed dollar numbers as time goes on. So the recommendation from Mr. Chair was the $1.25 million. I'd be comfortable if the board approves the inclusion of that in the board's capital plan as a placeholder.
Then the motion on this agenda item could be that the board approves the committee's recommendation to locate the girls' softball field on the high school grounds and to include in capital plan a placeholder amount of $1.25 million. That figure to be refined for further information.
That includes practice fields as well.
Yes.
It's not just the softball.
Okay.
Yeah, good point, so we should put both of
I
them.
would say include the practice fields.
The recommendation is the motion is to approve the committee's recommendation to locate the girls' softball field on the high school grounds and to develop 3 new practice fields in the area of the old Brigade Commission. We want to be specific with a holding fund of $1.25 million.
Yeah, because the cost of the field separate of that is probably much less than that, obviously, but there's the cost of the practice.
If someone is here to make that motion.
So moved.
Yeah, you did such a great job with that.
Any discussion? Good.
Yeah, I just think it's something that we really should do, and I'm happy that we're moving forward with it. It's a win-win situation. It's not just for girls softball, which I think the girls deserve to have a softball field on the high school property, but it can be used for other sports. Plus, Joy recommended nature trails in the back there with the practice fields on. So I think we could really get a lot of use out of it.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item C, capital improvement.
So the fourth year, we submitted a formal capital improvement plan to the town for current and future capital needs. Our team, and a big thank you goes out to Mr. Mancini, certainly Mr. Miner, and Mr. Crane, who do work together to really forecast a comprehensive approach. A few highlights: you can see we continue to earmark money for a turf field replacement down the road rather than face that big bill all at once. We've worked with the town to earmark that over time. You can see that we continue the replacement cycle for our interactive learning board, which will be, the third school earmark for replacement. You'll also see a new item, which is the bus lot cost spread out over 2 years. That is due to the municipal complex project up on Route 85. Whether or not we stay at Route 85 or we keep the buses at Waterford High School, that cost is the same. There's no differentiation. We need a lot. We need a bus trailer for our contract with them with power and heat and running water and all of those things. And that cost is the same regardless of location. You will see that we put in a line item for school security, for some additional physical plant improvements. I don't want to necessarily detail those in public. And we're going to apply for some reimbursement on that through the next round of school security grants, which Mr. Mancini and Mr. Miner are working on. And then the two items down below at the very bottom, obviously the softball field, that will be revised to reflect $1.25 million, but also the resurfacing and repainting of the tennis courts. We put that down below because that is a park and rec expenditure per the shared service agreement, but we wanted to make sure that it appeared on a piece of paper somewhere. Mr. Mancini, anything that I missed or any other highlights you want to call attention to?
No, I mean, outside of, the IT virtual desktop, this is the second installment of the $300,000 project. It is pretty high up on our priority list, right above the learning boards. Other than that, it's kind of, straight and narrow. There are some new items out in here for the out years that you guys are going to have to look at. Replacing the floor in the field house is going to be a pressing issue in a couple of years. 6-7 years, we're going to have to do the turf field. A very large project that we're looking to start funding in 2022-23. I know it doesn't seem like it's that far, but I assure you we'll be here very soon. We're going to be talking about replacing all the HVAC over at Park Lane. Now that we have natural gas over there, it provides different opportunities than existed when we had oil. There's more on that. I can ask Jay to speak. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward.
I have a question, Tom. The numbering system under the first column, is that orders of priority? 1, 2, 3, okay. And the funding sources, the high school field enhancement has a 1, everything else has a 3.
So the difference between that is what is capital and what is capital non-reoccurring. CNR is a 3. So and it's an additional process to go through. So this was actually in coordination with Dan and the finance director on the town side. By having it be capital, I don't have to go through the second approvals. Right. Once July 1 hits, I'm done. I just go forward and I have the money.
So 1 means that
it's going to be bonded for.
Bonded.
It's a different approval process.
Okay. Thank you.
Again, I don't know why this town does it this way, but it's very weird.
The second line item for the 2032 track field, that's basically the next round of funding for.
Yeah, it's just important for board members, not necessarily you guys, but and some of the other boards to recognize that this doesn't go away.
Yeah.
You can't put up a new building and not expect there to be costs 5-10 years down the line. Same thing is true with turf.
Right. No, that makes sense.
And really what the town was the most concerned with in the next fiscal year, we put years 2, 3, 4, and 5 for projections, but we're really concerned with
But it puts you on the radar and makes you know that it's coming. Whether you like it or not, it's coming.
Yeah, it's important that the board see that there's needs that are out there, right? Municipalities have a tendency of trying to do without for 1 year. There's a lot of stuff that's in the future that you guys aren't going to be able to do without, so that's why we put it on the paper. Marcia's got.
And I just want to add that we weren't able to get one more item on here, but the locker room situation at the pool in the pool area is atrocious for community and for swim team, and we are working on getting that somehow revised with architectural plans or whatever, and that's going to be a big ticket item. But it is a big community user, and you have a lot of kids now. If we have 40 kids on the Park Lane swim team and the high school team as well, but even the community cannot use the pool because of the locker room situation. So we're looking to remedy that situation, and it will be a big ticket item to add to this 5-year plan. Just keep that in mind.
Have we ever considered getting a generator for Park Lane? Because that's the only school that doesn't have one, right?
Just for Mr. Minor on this topic, if that's the chair.
Good. That would be at least a meg, 1,000 kilowatts.
Well, is it necessary to have one? I mean, all the other schools do have one, but Park Lane doesn't.
That's your call. I mean, you want me to put it in, I'll put it in.
No, I don't.
I'll be installing.
Well, I was thinking that item like that, we wouldn't want to move forward on it without a recommendation from the administration.
No, I was just questioning it because all the other schools do have one, Park Lane doesn't.
Other comments? There's been a motion to approve the capital improvement plan for 2019 through 2024 as discussed between the order. So, anybody? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion further on this? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item, school calendar, 2019 to 2020.
Sure. So, Mr. Chair, This calendar maintains the regional PD days, one in the fall and one in the spring. Even though the regional calendar law is rolled back, we as a region still agree that having those regional opportunities twice a year is important, and this calendar maintains that. The calendar in front of you maintains consistency in recent years with one modification. The change on this calendar from prior years is the relocation of the PD day at the beginning of the year. Typically, we've done convocation, welcome back type activities on Monday. Tuesday would be a PD day, and then kids roll in on Wednesday. Per some discussions and feedback from the WFCT, the teachers union, and teachers saying that that time right at the beginning of the school year is very chaotic. It's not chaotic, but it's a busy time of year, and their focus is on really getting ready for the kids.
For their kids, yeah.
Could we do something along the lines of relocating that PD day a few weeks into the school year? And what you'll see is locating it on the Friday as we head into Columbus Day weekend, which is something some other school districts in the area do. From administration's perspective, we can certainly accommodate that PD model. What it really does is it makes the spring PD day really the PD day for anything we want launched day one the following school year. And there's some advantage to having close PD days in October and November to do follow-up and extensions on that. Craig, I don't know if you have anything to add on that.
I think you hit those points.
But so we looked at it as a pilot year to see if it worked. The union is well aware of that. I don't see any major drawbacks to that.
I just have one concern on that. If we could track, if we approve this, how many people call out sick on Friday.
Yeah, before a long weekend.
October 11th. That's just like inviting.
Well, I think Mr. Adler, as the president of the WFCT, I'm sure will make his expectations clear to his members, and it's something that he and I will certainly talk about on October 12th.
Valuable PD professionals to show up.
Yeah. The only other concern I have is there's 2 days off that week, so the kids are coming. Yeah, but it's because of Yom Kippur. Yeah. So, kids might actually pull out the tent and take a little mini veg. So it might not just be teachers we need to keep track of. It might be student absences.
I think it's
Could be a 5-day, yeah. But, for 1 year, it's not going to be the end of the world.
The only other option would be, and we can discuss this with you, would be to move the PD day to the day after Columbus Day. So you have
The 15th,
Yom Kippur,
Yeah.
1 week, and then you have the PD day on the Tuesday after.
Why don't you do it in September? Why don't you do
That's not a bad idea.
in September?
The thought was with piggybacking on Columbus Day is if families wanted to travel, to give families an opportunity for a 4-day weekend. That was the thought, is to piggyback on Columbus Day weekend.
You signed up it? And your attendance hasn't been...
I would say that, as Jason said, professionals will show up for a good TV day.
Okay.
Then you have a lot of unprofessional people. I don't think it would matter what day it was held.
Right, you're right.
And the October CSAC is the 19th. I'm not sure what else is on the calendar.
Saturday.
So it's always Saturday, it's just whether it's...
It's not that weekend, it's following weekend.
Could I have a motion to approve the calendar as presented?
I move that we accept the calendar as presented.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passes. One negative vote.
I like starting after Labor Day. Groton and London did it this year.
So we're getting closer, Jody. At least we're not in school on the 26th. So, another year, if we keep moving that 1 day back, we'll get there.
Eventually.
Each one is the conversation. Discussion and possible action on our own music schedule. 2019. Screening for holidays, or if you holidays, any issues with
Valentine's Day.
That was a board budget meeting, which I did look for.
At your pleasure, we'll accept the motion to approve.
So moved.
Second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Tom,
Sure. I reported, gave an update to the board last month about progress. At that time, there were 2 Navy districts still floating out there. Of those 2 Navy districts, both of them got back to me. One of them is interested in further discussion, and one is going to be out. So that leaves us with 4 out of the 7 paid districts in the region interested in having a further discussion, including a presentation to their Board of Ed to hear about Waterford High. The action tonight would allow me and other members of our team, some who are in the audience tonight, to go out and present to these 4 boards of education, and if there was interest, begin to negotiate the terms by which they would send students to Waterford High. Any final approvals would come back to this board to say, yes, we want to proceed, or no, we don't. So this authority would allow me to go out and present to these towns and explore terms by which their students could attend. But final approval would still need to take place.
Can you name the 4, or is it?
I would prefer not to, because I don't know how much homework these superintendents did with their boards, and while they're
Don't want them to hear about it.
their boards to find out from the press for their superintendents. But,
other questions for the administration? We have a rather detailed motion recommended, if someone is here to make it by meeting.
All right. The Waterford Board of Education authorizes the superintendent of schools to engage in activities in furtherance of entering into tuition agreements with Connecticut Public School Districts, partner districts that do not operate their own high school. Such agreements would permit resident students in such partner districts to attend Waterford High School as tuition students. The authorized activities include, but are not limited to, developing written materials and presentations pertaining to same, meeting with boards of education of partner districts, administration, staff, and students of such partner districts, or designating others to do so, negotiating specific terms for such tuition agreements, and developing and publishing advertisements or explanatory materials pertaining to same. Notwithstanding this board's authority, the superintendent is directed to present any specific agreements with a proposed partner district to the Waterford Board of Education for review prior to approval.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion? say
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Policy. These are all one and done.
Yeah.
Not having to come back.
That is correct.
And why don't we do the Phil Morris one this crazy?
Sure. So just to kind of go over them, the truancy policy was updated, as you can see on the policy itself. The regulation was also updated, making that the Youth Service Bureau was a referral option with parent consent. Before, with the Juvenile Review Board and the court system with fusions, we had a kind of a direct route. The student discipline policy removed references to juvenile training school, and in addition, they had a model for an individualized learning plan for student discipline documents. The child abuse and neglect added licensed behavior therapist as one of the mandated reporters, and the abuse and neglect of intellectually disabled or
students on the spectrum. Also added that licensed behavior analysis was one of the mandated reporters, and shortened the reporting period to no more than 48 hours of a reasonable suspicion. So those are the policies tonight, if there's any questions.
I have a quick question.
Your chair, ICC, so we'll do that right after this.
I was going to say something.
Question for you.
I have a quick question on the licensed behavioral therapist, because there is a line in the policy that says Waterford school employees. So the licensed behavioral therapist is not a school employee?
So in our district, while we do have a person who is trained, we do actually do contracted service with another vendor currently with our preschool. So this would cover contracted services as well as full employees.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So I can have a motion to approve these policies.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Policies are approved. Now, back to item G, which is discussion to possibly refer to the policy committee about having student members on the board of education. Certainly, I think you had asked if you put this on the agenda at the last meeting. It's an item that has been raised by the board a number of times over the years, and the board has never taken up the idea. In other words, we had to discuss it. What are the thoughts of this board? Jody, is your idea of discussion like to address it?
Well, I just think it's important, and it'll be a great opportunity for high school students to take part on our board. There's different ways of having them, take part. Old Saybrook started this years ago, and they were the only school district, and then over the years, I think there's at least half of our school districts do have student representation on the Board of Ed. I would like it too, just to hear from the high school students to see how programs we've adopted, how they're working, how some of the curriculum's working. We have a front row seat really on how, how they feel about different things. They don't necessarily, they're not voting members on the schools. On DECA probably, you have student representation on each line.
They report to us as a standard report at every meeting of what's happening in school. And they're there to consult with. They don't vote.
Right. I mean, we could design our own way of having them take part.
Other opinions?
It's a great leadership opportunity.
So how would we go about formalizing that? Is that policy?
Well, you have to get to policy. What are the things you might want to think about? Because you would be giving the students, in some ways, a greater voice before the board than the general public. For example, the general public has a limitation on the amount of time they can present. So they might be devoted to any one issue. Do we want to give students, they might be, how representative they would be of their fellow students?
How would they be selected?
Yeah.
In all cases, they have to run for the office. I don't know how they do that in
And
each line.
who do they run for? I mean, who elects them?
The high school, their peers.
But they have to be recommended by a teacher.
And again, do we feel that we don't get enough information as it is from the high school administrators, or from the high school faculty via the various reports?
I think the students, though, sometimes have a different view on things.
I was going to say, it's maybe more of a perspective thing, as opposed to not getting enough information. You get at least different view, maybe.
And how would that square with the town charter in terms of who can be on the board? How would it square with our policy? So if the board is interested in going that way, I think it would be appropriate to refer to the policy committee. On the other hand, if the board is not interested, it is not interested.
Oh, can I ask a question? And forgive me, I have two freshmen and I have no clue, but do you have students who you meet with on a regular basis, sort of a committee of sorts that bring things to your attention and something you could then report back here? Well, but
council?
Yeah, we have a number of
there's a lot of different
organizations that fill that role in different ways.
Okay.
One is the school council, which is self-selected, any student can join it, and that is the 9 through 12 group. We've also got each of our class councils, which any student can join. They then elect their class officers, and those are all from one grade. There's another group, we call it the Principals Forum. We've got 4 representatives from every grade. They meet directly with me and the other administrators about every 2 to 3 weeks. And they can bring topics to me. I always come with, questions I might have about an initiative we're thinking of starting, or just getting there, talking about a topic that might be a faculty meeting or a department chair's meeting. So we do have vehicles that are already being used to get student input, but also to groom students who are comfortable speaking on behalf of their peers with adults. If you were interested in coming up with a mechanism for selecting students to work right out to.
Has there been any requests from the student leaders or any students to have mechanisms set up where they could represent student views and student opinions to the Board of Education?
Not in a formal way, not like with a petition or a letter or written request. I think it's one of those things that if students aren't aware that it's a possibility, they don't think about whether they'd like to do it or not.
I helped out on voting the honors flight project, and there was a young girl there, Alex, and I don't know her last name, but she approached me and she wanted to know why we don't have student representation on our Board of Ed, because her parents are in the military and they've traveled around a lot, and she was involved, or the high school that she went to in Hawaii was involved in this. And she approached me. In fact, she was going to come to our meeting last week, or the previous meeting, but we canceled it. So, it's up to the board, but I just think it's a great opportunity, for students to, even to give us the report. And it's not that I don't trust the administration, I trust you, but if they could feel that they have a voice, just to report things back to us.
But they do have a voice as a citizen of Waterford.
But we don't hear, Andre's hearing everything, from them, but as a board, we don't hear from them.
Well, there is a chain of command.
Maybe what we should do is form a subcommittee and see what other towns are doing and see how are they selected, what is their voice, what is the process. And to Jody's point, I understand that we hear from the principal, but I think that you get a different perspective from the student. Nothing against what the administrators are saying, but if half of the towns on 152 are doing it, if 40 out of 150, or 50 out of 150, or 70, how does that happen? And, we're not looking to see what's going on. I think it's important to get a perspective from them.
That's something I think that would just naturally occur. For example, when we have these discussions about after-school athletic programs at the middle school, if you do a school of choice, the administration went and did that same kind of research. And I would anticipate that if it was the research policy committee, the research that would come before the committee, and if it didn't, the committee would request it.
I just wonder why wouldn't Clark Lane need a representative as well as the high school? Yeah. Why wouldn't the PTAs need a representative? I just...
Why not just call?
Right.
Maybe the option is to refer to the committee to get a recommendation one way or the other, whether this is really feasible. Do we really think we want to do that? Maybe.
Is it really substantive, or is it just,
Well, I think that's
somebody's
part of
hat?
what the policy, what any committee does, they bring back a recommendation after we do our due diligence and our homework to kind of dig into it and say, okay, does this have legs, you know?
The committee would report back.
Does it go to policy, or would you form another committee?
It would go to policy.
Why would it go to policy and not have another committee? I'm just curious.
Sure, because the policy committee is charged with making policy recommendations for it. It's part of its function as unit.
But if
If you were going to have student representatives participate, for example, we have a policy on the board's agenda, or the agenda on the chart. So that would be impacted. We're going to have student representatives in sports. We'd want to add that to the policy on the agenda. So there are ripples that go throughout.
It doesn't preclude that if somebody would like to join the policy committee.
Well, they would certainly
come to that.
not join, but
participate,
What's the pleasure of the board?
I think it should go to the policy committee. And I think the policy committee should look at what other towns are doing, and I think that we should explore it. And it's got to come back to us for us to decide, but why not just look and see what's going on?
So you're moving it to refer to the policy?
I am.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion?
Just a point of information, 12 years ago, we did try to do this, but we had a separate committee looking into this. But when you do it, Eileen Baker, I don't know if she's still involved with Old Saybrook, but she was a wealth of information. And we could ask East Line even, how they're doing this.
Well, I'm sure if we did it, as Greg said, we would have to have background information. We'd have to not just hear from East Line, but from all schools.
But Eileen Baker is the one that spearheaded this, and at all of the CAVE meetings that I had attended years ago, she had a separate workshop on student representation on boards of that.
Yeah, obviously we work with Chittenden Goodwin and policy work. They represent a very large percentage of the districts in the state, 80-90%. They're going to have access to all those policies. So I'm not worried about gathering.
Right. It's obviously happening elsewhere, and they have
they'll have it handled.
So they'll have guidelines for us if we do pursue it.
Absolutely. And through TAPS, I have a superintendent's listserv where we can gather other information from the districts as well. So getting the information will not be a problem.
Any further discussion of the motion?
Can we get this prepared for our next policy meeting, which is next week?
That would be a special.
A lot of,
we can gather some preliminary information. We'll see what we can get in 4 business days. But
Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item is a review of regulations concerning food allergies.
So the glycogen storage was revised in this regulation primarily. And then we did a little bit of cleanup just on the grammar and semantics. And that would be for the handling of students with food allergies. The next,
Also, you have the interscholastic PTO athletics.
correct, and that came as from either students or parents with students from the magnet school, and was brought through the board to policy. And when looking at this, the CIAC does have middle school guidelines around this area, so to codify that those optional guidelines are kind of now directed in Waterford. We've really embedded those guidelines right in the regulations, and then when we did a cleanup of the regulation, a thorough look through, we noticed that there was some kind of historical limitations to some sports that no longer seemed relevant through our athletic director or our middle school principal. So those were the changes.
And again, they do not require formal approval by the board. Any questions or comments? Next item, please. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.